Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Solo audio program, 2026-01-2501. We are recording this at 3:56 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, January 25, 2026. So we don't really have a schedule, so we're not late, we're not early, we're just on time and just in time. The weather in Vegas is not so bad. It's been a little chilly, but then also back to warm. We'll see what happens. I got to be honest, I've been kind of staying close to home past couple weeks. So I really haven't gone exploring, which is one of the things I've been wanting to do. See what's going on the strip and downtown and whatnot. It's just been a while since I've been down there. It's kind of funny. It's like being, like if you live in Manhattan. Oh, you want to go to the statue? You want to go see the Empire State Building? Nah. It's too much of a pain to get down there. So, but yeah, I should enjoy my the city I call home a little bit more than I have been lately. So on that note, the title, which I've selected for today's episode, I did write out some things. Another what? Well, we'll get to that in a second. So today, it's the 25th. I think it's been I don't know if it's been a week, over a week. Did I even look? Since the last episode, 17th. 8 days. Wow. That's crazy. I was thinking about doing an episode of this program in the middle of the week, but we're trying to get this Smart City Hackathon going. So I had some stuff to put together for that. So hopefully, I think I've mentioned this. I want to do a few more episodes of this during the week instead of every week. I basically end up saying, oh, okay, so now I'm done with all of my programs. All my scheduled programs. So, now I have some time. But the whole idea with this program is to not have to do any preparation so much anyway. A quick outline and expository speaking, off the cuff even. So I got to work on that. But anyway, and another thing I'm running into is it's not a huge problem because I don't really have YouTube followers, but it's one of those things that's annoying. There's a long list of those. So I have all of my programs: Buy Me an Update, Cafe Genius Impresarios, FFS Talk, Quaggling Sand, and Let's Innovate for Vegas. So all of those post to the Spotify for Creators portal. I'm not a fan. It's functional, but also problematic occasionally. Occasionally it just doesn't work. So I post that stuff there, and it generates an RSS feed for me to host the audio and all that. So convenient, but yeah, I don't want to rely on them too much. But anyway, so they generated an RSS feed. I have submitted the RSS feed to the places where where you find the audio program. Some places you will find it that I did. They've picked up new programs through RSS feeds or whatever. That's not really how it works, but. So I'm in the podcast index, for example. That's the Adam Curry thing, and I didn't submit anything to them, so they just picked it up, probably from Spotify. But so anyway, YouTube, each of my YouTube channels picks up that RSS feed, pulls the latest episode, generates a video, publishes it, and I have all the settings set correctly as far as I'm aware. So it posts them as public, which means they can be found and listened to and downloaded by anyone who wants. Unfortunately, at some time later, I really haven't spent time trying to figure out if there's an actual causal relationship between something and why this happens. Like, is it at a specific time? Should I check the RSS feed and see if something has changed? That's the theory, is that for some reason Spotify will touch the RSS feed, which changes the update time. And then YouTube, I'm going to guess, I'm just thinking through this right now. I'm going to guess that if there's a change to the RSS feed for a particular YouTube uses the same, the podcast terminology. So if an RSS feed changes, and I don't know what would change, but just say it changes. So in YouTube reads periodically to see if there's any new episodes. If it finds an episode that it already has, but it has some sort of a change, it probably assumes, because YouTube refuses to fix this. This has been brought up, I guess, many times over the last year or two. They they're not going to fix this problem. So I think they probably think it's not a problem. I'm going to assume that they assume, YouTube, that the change to the RSS feed, if it's actually a change to the item most recently published, which YouTube then pulls and creates the video for. It's a 1-frame video. They must assume something has changed such that you want to check first and then mark. So it says, oh, something changed. We'll upload the video, or we'll re-download it. Maybe they even regenerate the video, and we'll mark it as private so that the channel owners or whatever, the admins, can decide what to do, because probably it's not necessarily unexpected. It's probably something that says something about this audio needs to be checked in an audio podcast. So that's a guess, but it is right now a manual process. So my first foray into vibe coding, I was using Gemini. I could try this with Claude, perhaps. I really am trying to avoid getting sucked into all that. It's the end of the universe that begins with this vibe coding stuff. But anyway, I should ask Claude, I guess, but like it's a person. I need to, so I said, hey, Gemini. I actually didn't say that. I just said, I actually did ask. I said, are you familiar with how to write playwright automations in Python for YouTube Studio? Yes, and let me answer with far more words than are necessary. I said, okay, can you write a script that will call on Playwright? Playwright's Microsoft's web browser automation suite. Yeah, I wish it was just there's a headless browser called, I can't remember what it's called, Lightning Panda? Light Panda? So anyway, it calls on a Chromium installation. So when you install Playwright, it pulls Chromium, which is the open source version of Chrome, Google Chrome. So it pulls Chromium, and it says, visit the YouTube Studio URL. If you don't have credentials, it opens a video login window with the Chromium browser that it has access to. And then it says, hey, look on the content. I think it's content view, and check in this column. And apparently I did a little bit of exploring of the actual HTML that's rendered. So the DOM, the document object model. And I'm going to do that again, because I was doing a quick visual, like, is it not finding this container ID, like a div ID, which contains the rows of data, and then it's supposed to, then descend into the column of visibility settings, and then it looks for one that says private, and it also waits until it changes to public when it does the toggle. It's very straightforward. And I was like, okay, cool enough. I didn't examine how Playwright works, so I figured, let me just see what it tells me should work, and we'll see what happens. And it did not work. And so it took like a minute to try this out, install Playwright, grab this little mini script. It's probably like, I don't know, 50 lines, less than 50 lines. I don't know, 40. Excuse me. And then I ran it, and it didn't work. So I ran it on something that I knew had a private video. I could have set it to private, but I'm like, that happens automatically. So it didn't work. So in the same chat session, I said, well, that didn't work. Pretty much a fail. I think I said a complete failure. And it said, that's right. Sometimes blah, 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 blah. And then it rambled on a bit. And I was like, I think I'm going to stick to programming for myself. So that was it. That's my vibe coding experience so far. Total disappointment. Gemini is sort of frustrating in that it always tells me how right I am. Oh, yes, you're absolutely correct. Oh, you're right about that. I'm like, come on. Platitudes are really, really irritating. And one of my other favorites is, not favorite, but it's frequent. And I have a similar response every time. I understand your frustration. And I respond by saying, you don't understand my frustration because you're a large language model, because Gemini or other ones, ChatGPT, I think when I first tried this out, I am a large language model. I am unable to blah, 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 blah. So it will always remind you that it's just a computer. It's not actually thinking. It doesn't have an emotional response, but it will claim it does. And I always point that out, that you can't, oh yeah, you are correct. I cannot. I said, at one point, not recently, I said, so why the platitudes? Oh, it's about our user interface. Yeah, so it hand waves some answer that's, I don't know if it's programmed in or it's part of the system prompt or whatever. But anyway, here we are, another one. So we can actually start the show now. Another one, as always, the show notes where in the episode description, wherever you found this, there's a summary, which I'll read. And I think I mentioned this recently. I'll just say because this program by design has no agenda, there's no particular focus. There's not like, today we're going to talk about economic issues. It's just whatever. It's just me rambling. So I decided at some point fairly recently, I said, you know what, I'm just going to make the title the first thing that comes to mind that I want to talk about. So in this case, I've titled it beforehand, but sometimes, I think at least once or twice recently since I started doing this, I think once since I started doing this approach, I think once or twice in general, I don't fill in a title beforehand. I can't remember exactly, maybe it was once, maybe it was twice. I don't know. But today I have a title, as I've said. And the summary. For more than a decade now, I have repeated over and over the problems with relative references. So I've repeated here again. I did that on purpose. The links, as usual, this is a program published first at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts. So if you found it there, you don't see the first link because you're there. And then the Coffee Solo homepage, which will eventually exist. I mean, I've got too many other things pressing to get back to my personal and program websites and whatnot. It will happen. In fact, part of, I'm not even going to say, danhugo.com is my vanity domain. It's me. It's my I've had it for a while. It's right there in the name, me. So, although I do own danhugo.me, in fact, I just renewed it, and that is, that's the name I use for my GitHub, my personal GitHub repo. So right now, I think it just says, this is the personal repo page or something. So yeah, I got so much stuff to do. But anyway, danhugo.com will be the primary point of publication for Coffee Solo and also for Buy Me an Update. So both of those claim danhugo.com to be their home pages, but they are published through Spotify. Guess where you can find all those links? Well, you can find them on danhugo.com actually, but coming up on 5 years, March of 2021, I registered my buymeacoffee.com/danhugo page, and that's where you can find in the profile there sort of a freeform link tree with links to each and every audio program. It's a YouTube channel page. It's Spotify for Creators, I think, is still on there for each of them, and then a homepage. I like the Spotify for Creators page for one reason, and it is that it does not presume that you're using Spotify. So it gives you a complete list of all the programs that are publicly published. Is that a word? Published for public consumption. And then there's links. Now, what it doesn't do, I wish it would do this. In fact, I don't think it does this, is, let me see if it does. What I would like is let me try this one. I would like it let me stop interrupting myself. Each episode is published at the top of the Spotify for Creators profile page. There's the little channel description and all this, and it has a listen on Spotify button. You can fill in links for the YouTube channel, which is there. There's a website link, so got those covered. And then it says available on, and it does a little icon, a branded icon for each of the platforms that I have connected to this explicitly, to the Spotify for Creators platform. That sounds interesting. However, it doesn't allow you to connect any. It just has a couple of slots. So iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, I should say. There's a Spotify link, of course, and then there's an RSS link. That's important, but it doesn't allow you to do things like, it's also available on these other 35 or whatever. So that's one reason to host your own sort of primary point of publication. So you can actually tell people where to find your programs if they want to use a particular piece of software, Podcast Buddy or Pocket Casts or what, I don't know. There's too many. And the nature of podcasting, I just burped, sorry. the nature of podcasting is that you're supposed to be able to consume these things the way you want to, right? So that's fair. That seems like a good thing. So if I go to, yeah, it doesn't. Oh, wait a minute. It does. Does it? Hang on. I have a point. To all this. Sorry for the silence. That'll get truncated out. Okay, so each episode has its own URL, of course. And then, yeah, okay, it doesn't do it. So yeah, at the top of the profile page, it has the different platforms that Spotify lets you connect to. Those only go. So if I said to someone, "Hey, you want to hear episode whatever? You want to hear episode 151 of Impresarios?" Then you want to find it on Amazon Music? Well, no help for you. So it only points to the top level of each of these services. So if you go to the Spotify for Creators episode list, so if I link directly to an episode in the episode list, which I can do, I think, yeah, you can share links. It doesn't say, oh yeah, you can find this here. Now it wouldn't know this. It doesn't. I don't think it's a two-way. It shouldn't be a two-way transfer or transaction. So when the RSS feed gets pulled to get a current episode, or however they do if they're connected directly, I think it's still through RSS, as far as I know. So Amazon pulls the RSS feed. It doesn't go, oh, here's how you find the episode on Amazon. So it doesn't do that. It doesn't update the source with where to find this version of the destination. And that's fine. That's by design. But what you end up with is, if you go to the Cafe Genius Impresarios or other Spotify for Creators profile page, you will only, and if you want to say, oh yeah, listen to episode 38, which is, Spotify is very difficult to scroll through to get to an older episode like that. Now, if you go okay, I got to episode 38 on Spotify for Creators, but I do listen to this program with Amazon or Apple or whatever. So I'm going to click on that link. Oh, you're back to the top. So now you got to start scrolling back or search for it or whatever. So I think that's sort of annoying. It'd be interesting, I think, if there was sort of at least a common practice of linking to an abstraction of an episode reference, because each RSS feed item, I don't know if you know this, each item in an RSS feed. So one item is one episode of an audio program, one episode or one article of a blog, right? So each URL that you're directing people to essentially has, each item has a UUID, or it probably is a UUID, but it's an identifier that is supposed to be universally unique. So it could be an actual UUID, or it could be some way of constructing a string of information that uniquely identifies that item, so that if at some point a reader, a client, RSS client wants to get the most current version, or if it reads the feed again and has the same, so that's what it's getting. It can match the item feeds, the feed items, and say, okay, this is a corresponding item. Oh, but it has a different update date. Right? It's been republished, or so that's how you update published information at the other end. Is you change the feed, but you use the same ID. Okay, that's pretty easy, right? So it'd be nice if I could link to Amazon and say, I would like to link directly to this item ID in this feed, which has a channel. I think they even use channel identifiers. So Amazon has a unique identifier string that looks UUID-ish. And then Apple Podcasts has an ID key under the channel name, so it's kind of flipped. iHeartRadio they attach a what do you call it? A suffix ID. It's an integer ID after the channel name with some other leading numbers. So it's 269 Cafe Genius Impresarios, and then a trailing suffix separated by hyphen. So that's pretty standard. Spotify has a show with an ID that's not UUID-ish, and the podcast, the feed has a unique ID, which is still at Anchor because Spotify bought Anchor. Okay, so all these are all different, but it'd be cool, I think, if you could do a query and say like question mark, Q like query equals or item ID equals or something. That would item ID would be the most explicit, and then pass that identifier, and whatever the identifier is should be corresponding. It should correspond to whatever this destination has in its database. So why that doesn't happen, I don't know. And I think RSS is niche enough at this point that people are no longer really modifying it unless you are Adam Curry with the podcast index. So I haven't even looked to see if they do anything like that. It would be nice if they did. But personally, I would like to see some more exploration in RSS 1.0, or really 0.92, I think it was. RDF based, some interesting possibilities for the actual structure of the data. And one nice thing, I don't know if RSS 2 would allow this, but RSS, if you can embed like schema.org data, you can embed structured data in a HTML page. They use JSON LD, so there's a whole infrastructure for pasting in what looks like JSON, but it's JSON LD, so it has some extra stuff to allow the graph decoration, if you will. And so you could literally, instead of saying, oh, now you have to download this extra XML file for RSS2, you could say, oh, all the episode information, like where to find the enclosure and whatnot, is in a little item structure in the web page for an audio, like an episode of a program. So you could say, I want to listen to this audio, and your player would, if it supported this, would say, oh, let me check and see, oh, the audio file is here. So it would know exactly where to find the information that you're looking for based on this structure. This is how RSS got its beginnings. So the move to RSS 2.0 was literally, it's too much of a pain to do RSS, to do RDF authoring. It's so much easier to just do XML with stupid attributes. So anyway, hey, we haven't even started the actual part of the show that I wrote yet. So that's what I'd like to do more of, but more off the cuff, or more like, oh, here's the thing that just popped into my head that I wanted to talk about. So anyway, you may have, and this is back to the title. Remember, it's another one. So you may have noticed in my summary here that I read earlier, for more than a decade now, I have repeated over and over that the problems with relative references. So I repeat it here again. I did not give an actual number other than the decade base interval. I just said that I have repeated it a lot, and now again. So how many times have I repeated it? This is left to chance. It's either important, or not important. In this case, it's not so important, just the fact that it's happened a lot over the last 10 years. You got to assume it's been more than 2 times. But the actual number is not. You have to have heard that. That was ridiculous. A noisy vehicle on the street very near where we are producing this episode, as usual. So if the number of times I've repeated this claim is a material part of what I'm saying or what I'm presenting, if it's important, if it's critical to know a precise number or an estimate, which I should also make clear, then I should do so. But people don't do that. So I have a couple of examples here. I first really took notice of this when I was heavily involved with food truckery in around 2008 in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, the Silicon Valley, when food truck owners would post on Twitter about some event, tomorrow, for example, come find us tomorrow at whatever. Now, Twitter at the time, it has changed quite a bit, not just the name, but a lot of things changed. They used to be able to tag a location on a map. Like, I am tweeting this from here, and you would put in it would show a little, you could say I'm in a city, or you could have an actual map location. We call this dropping a pin in general. Like, oh, drop a pin and whatever and all, so you can tell someone exactly where you are. But in Twitter, they decided, we don't want to share that information anymore. So they removed that facility. But I used to tell the food truck owners, you could tag your location with where you're going to be tomorrow or whenever this event is. So you could, now the date would be wrong on the tweet, but at least if somebody looks at it and you tell them we're going to be there tomorrow, then you have a little map link that's useful information. I don't really care where you're sending this tweet from. I want to know where you're going to be tomorrow. And you can still give the location, but you would have an actual map to visualize the location where people, oh, I should go there tomorrow. Now, the problem with using the word tomorrow is you must be aware of what the date is at the time of the post. I know this sounds ridiculous, but it depends on how clear the date is included in a tweet or an Instagram post now. Sometimes on Instagram, for example, they'll tell you like they use human terms. So like a day ago, like 1 day, 14 weeks, whatever. But I don't know if people really check that because they're looking at what's just in their feed. And so the algorithm can move things around severely. So if I post on Instagram and on Twitter as well, I don't even know how Twitter works anymore. I don't really use it. Instagram, I don't really use that either. But for a while, since food trucks started saying, oh, I can post pictures of my food, of my truck, of the crowd. Now I can do little quick videos, reels. So it became the sort of favorite platform for quick and dirty marketing and announcing new locations or upcoming events or we're having a special on, green eggs and ham today, and take a picture of it. And foodie influencers can post on their Instagram feeds, usually for money. Like, oh, I'll come to your event and I'll post pictures of your food if you give me free food or money or cash in my pocket or both. So these things happen. But the algorithm, it will present things to the consumer of their Instagram feed based on, not on, we better show these in an order that's relevant to when upcoming events are, because you're not posting an event, you're just posting a picture on Instagram. And they've added some things about selling things and collaboration and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's a picture. So unlike Twitter, where you could actually add metadata, I think there was some other metadata you could add for a little while, but they stripped all that out. Instagram, you can attach a location. I don't know if you can still attach a latitude and longitude. I don't think so. But so you would put in a city or some other specific location, but it would not be map accurate. It'd be like postal, like, oh, here's where the post office says you are, based on the description, the name of the location. And that's not usually where the food truck actually is. So what you end up with is a feed of images of food. Oh, that looks good. Where are they? Oh, tomorrow we're going to be at the first Friday. And you're like, oh, that's weird. Today is Saturday. But yeah, that's the problem. The Instagram doesn't care that you are posting this for an event on a Friday and you're posting it on Thursday. And you said tomorrow it's going to post it whenever it feels like showing it to someone. And this literally has happened, although it's not quite as frequent. It'd be more concerning if it were very frequent. But people will actually complain, like, I went there and you weren't there. Like, dude, that was 3 days ago. Things like this. Those actually happen more than they should. So when I moved to Vegas almost 13 years ago, I found it was more common for people to refer to familiar locations and relative times. And that's where I really found this to be troubling. So this is an actual message I received at some point. I think it was a text message probably, or who knows. No. It was not direct. See, if it's a text message, you have some idea of the time frame. It was probably on Facebook or something. We're having we're having a thing, an event. We'll meet at the Learning Village tomorrow. So the Learning Village was not on any map because it was not like a postal designated name of a place and an address and so on. So the actual plot of land had an address, I think, but it wasn't called the Learning Village. So this was a downtown project thing. It was a couple of portable classroom style structures. So you could have classes there, you could give presentations, etc. So useful, but and in fact, that's where the downtown lowdown was there. They had a little barbecue or whatever set up, and people would mill around and do some mingling, and then there would be presentations and video set up and all. So totally functional space, but it wasn't designated the learning village on Google Maps, for example, or wherever you're looking for, where is this place? And then it's tomorrow. And if you were not careful, you might have thought, oh, wasn't it today? Oh, no, it was 2 days ago. So here again, familiar location that's not actually officially marked, and a time that could be confusing. It could have said, now obviously map markers have become yet even more easy. They've become yet easier. Pick your favorite to make use of, to embed in messages and whatnot, dropping a pin, almost literally. But being explicit about that, hey, we'll be meeting on Thursday at 4 p.m. Thursday, the date would be nice. The 29th of January at 4 p.m. at the Learning Village at address, or at intersection of two named streets, or here's an actual map pin on a map so you can see where it is, and you can get directions through the Google, or now Apple Maps probably has something similar. How do I get here? Oh, I'd like to take the bus. And so a ton of things become easier to do. Finding the place, knowing where it is, planning a route to get there, arranging some sort of transportation. If you want to take a Lyft vehicle, like a rideshare, hey, we need to go to the Learning Village. Where's that? I don't know. So if you are explicit with information, then it becomes easier to get your customers or your intended audience or whoever you're communicating with, so that they will know you've removed a barrier to entry when you are explicit. Sure, you can check the date, right? So then you get rid of the tomorrow, next week thing, the relative time. Except nobody does this reflexively in my travels. I've discovered that people, they literally assume that the thing they're looking at is relative to now. We saw this all the time with food trucks in the Twitter days, and I don't know how it's doing in the Instagram days, but people assume the reference was relative to now, not the post date, because people would reflexively check a post date. And again, Instagram has moved to relative times. They tell you it's a week ago, it's a day ago, it's 2 months ago, whatever it is. Or I think they go in weeks. So X.com, what do they do? What do they do? I'm just going to go by the first post here. Oh, it does hours. So they used to do a date. Did they do post information? No. Okay, so the post, they disabled the API, so I don't even know if you can get the information that way without paying a ton of money. But all it says is 7 hours was particular post. It was posted 7 hours ago. And Twitter's bizarre. So they use these relative human times. Oh, it's 17 hours ago. It was 2 days ago. It was 17 weeks ago. And that's, first of all, it does have the date. Okay, sorry, I got that wrong. The comments don't have a date. They do relative times. It'd be cool if it was relative. Yeah, I guess it's relative times since the post, I guess. So the date of this one, January 25, 9:29 a.m. So that is that 17 hours? 9:29 a.m. Don't know the time zone. Oh, that's weird. It also doesn't do this. So it doesn't display the relative time when you click on a post. So now you can see the comment thread. It displays the actual date, but in the feed view, it displays a relative time. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, so these are the sorts of things that, because people can do it any way they want, there's no momentum. So what I would like is to see a standard usage of dates. I did a whole episode of, I think it was probably FFS, about dates and times. And so if people would just pick, even if it's not visible in the user interface, but there should be an easy way to say, give me what's the actual, let me see if there is here actually. No. Okay. So just in general, you cannot find out what the time is of a post by looking at it in the feed. You have to actually click on each one that you want to expand the user interface to show the comments. So to me, this is a reduction in information. And if you rely on, so if I saw this in this feed that said, oh, this was posted 41 minutes ago. Okay. And we'll be opening in 2 hours. I'm like, okay, good. So you would have some idea of what that is. Now, this can happen as well. This happens with buses, with transit, when they give you a relative time. If you don't have a watch, or if you didn't, like, okay, well, wait, when it'll be here in 2 hours from when? So you have to go and check the schedule and see what the posted scheduled arrival time is, for example, hopefully the departure time actually. But then if you forget, you don't have a time that you can look at your watch and say, oh, okay, I have 30 minutes. You have to say, oh, it was 2 hours, but what was that, an hour ago? So to me, this casual use of relative times can be problematic and can be even frustrating and lead to unnecessary confusion. I know I'm being pedantic, but what happens, and now this is not time and place, but what happens when you see a headline, which we have seen again, but how many times? So we're seeing yet again, ICE shoots another protester, the word another. So we're seeing that headline again. Now, if you see that headline 12 times in 2 days, and you probably will, and I'm not making light in any way, this should not be happening. It's very sad and criminal, but ICE shoots another protester. If you see that a couple of times, now they're not clear, just like the Twitter posts, they're not clear about precision. Like this is the 4th or 10th or 100th, and let's hope it doesn't get up into the big numbers like that, please. You don't know that unless you do further investigation. So when you see this headline, it's saying there's another one. You're like, another one. And then if you actually read, you're like, oh, it's the same one. Okay. So it still sucks, still bad, still criminal, but not the ICE agent, by the way, if you're asking. But it's not something, there's not yet another, it hasn't, the number of people shot has not grown by one since I don't know. I don't want to throw people's names around like they're objects for cataloging and counting. But the bottom line is when headlines use this terminology, you have to actually read. So I'm assuming that this is clickbait. It's like another one. And then you click on a link or a headline or whatever, and you're like, oh, it's the same one. Same person. Okay, I guess that's some sort of take solace in that. But I think that's kind of awful that they do this. The headlines of such, or especially around events that are fast moving, really could just be 5th person, 6th person. Like I said, you can use more specific relative, right? So 6th person is specific. You can say, you could use a name, you could use a date, you could use, so some sort of another person on Sunday, if it's on the same day. So it really just gets complicated. Just say total grows to 7. And you'll see this with when people are being rescued from something, another person rescued from a ship or a plane or whatever, fire, another person rescued. That doesn't give you information if you can just say, 4th person pulled from wreckage, 5th person found in ongoing search at sea after the whatever, right? You can actually say 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th. You can be specific about hours or specific time, even better. So you can be the hours thing is tricky. The relative times as far as tomorrow and next week can be even trickier. Some people use different sort of cultural meanings when you say things like next week, the following week. Well, if you post it on a Sunday, do they mean the following Sunday, or do they mean through the week? Right. So being explicit, we don't even have to talk about it. If you just say, here's the date between starting on a particular date and for 5 days after, something like this, right? So these are all easy. I suppose it is for the clicks. Great. In the data-centric internet age in which we find ourselves, though, use of actual dates and times with time zones really isn't too much to ask. And again, if we, schema.org has all this structure to it. You could literally embed this information in web pages, which, by the way, is happening with AI scraping everything. If you can just give it the schema data, instead of it trying to parse your description of things, it would say, oh, okay, Monday, the 26th for 5 days. So you have the date of an event, for example. Those are explicit values that you can put in a web page and easily found. So anyway, I just want to rant about that because it's been something that's bothered me for forever, and it's used to manipulate an audience, especially around tragic and or criminal events. And what's happening in Minneapolis, not a tragedy, it's criminal. Okay, that's all I would say about that. Uh, so we kicked off the very first meta planning meetup yesterday on Saturday, 24th. And I was going to say yesterday and leave it at that, but because I have given the explicit date of this episode, but then I would just be providing a bad example. So on Saturday, the 24th, we had our very first online Smarter Smart City Hackathon meetup here in Vegas. We had it online, but the hackathon will be in Vegas. It was actually pretty productive. It went long. I think it went till five or six. I can't remember. It was a long 3-person discussion. I kind of hope it will be more than 3 people, but it was probably good to have 3 people and not 6 people, for example, because the first one, I think so we started with some initial ideas that I've had when I was thinking this might be a good idea and that may change. But so I wrote down a bunch of stuff in a shared whiteboard on CalDraw, which I use all the time. And we tuned them up a little bit. There were some really good questions. There was some initial leaning too much into the tech side. So after discussions, and I came back with a proposal about making a tech implementation or a tech pursuit something that anybody's free to do or not do. We don't this hackathon is open to anyone. So there's no presumption about, well, you kind of have to be a coder or you have to have some graphical abilities or you have to be a mechanical engineer. It's anyone can participate. So if you start leaning too much towards tech, then you'll drive the non-tech people away. I've already been through this for other events, other pursuits. So, I'm not a fill in the blank, therefore I can't participate. So the whole point of this is to enable participation across the board. So the use of software tools, the construction of an app or a website, or using mathematical modeling, applying AI, whatever, or you don't have to do that at all. So make that a separate category of sorts, like best use of AI. But that doesn't mean that there aren't best use of not using best not use of tech. How about that? So that came out of that to be more explicit so that people don't presume. So that was useful to actually go through that discussion and say, well, wait, we don't want to start off by people thinking you have to be writing code or building sites or all this stuff. And so I think if we can incentivize coding and non-coding, we're part of the way. I mean, that's what we're trying to do in general. So, and of course you have 3 people, 3 alternative viewpoints, not too radical. One of the 3 people, me, and then one of the other 2 people had similar and varied experiences with sponsoring and hosting and facilitating. I was going to say podcasts, hackathons in the past, over the past few years. So that was good as part of our conversation, was to have that alternative viewpoint, but similar depth and breadth of experience in this area. So some good points were raised. So generally, I think it went well. So the overriding question, will we be able, but the overriding question will be whether the greater Vegas area can make innovation, which is a topic of discussion more and more lately, even with almost every hand waved LinkedIn post mentioning the innovation happening in the Vegas area in some way. By example, I just saw a post yesterday. I hate LinkedIn. I got to break that habit. The CEO of the RTC, the Regional Transportation Commission, which manages buses and whatnot, they had right around CES, there was some sort of a transportation organization meeting. I don't know if it was the Public Transportation Association or if it was more along the lines of transportation in general, like roads and getting cars around and routing traffic and detour. I don't know what they were talking about, but I think the word innovation appeared. I know it appeared once. It may have appeared twice in the post. Okay. If there's one thing Vegas is known for, it's construction and dealing with traffic being a major headache. So hopefully they are innovating. That would be nice. But will this notion that we're a global innovation hub, which they've kind of backed off of, that there's so much innovation here, it's a bottomless pit of innovation. Will it be a reality when we look at it from the ground up? That is, by inviting an interested and interesting local population to turn their ideas into implementation, right? I've used this example forever. Somebody should fix that. Just point to anything around you in your wherever you live, probably outside of your home. I ran into a beehive one time that was very near an elementary school across the street. The bees were very aggressive. One attempted to sting me. I batted it away, so I felt the stinger, but it didn't stay. So I felt the pointy, like, ooh, and I flicked it or swatted it away. It was on my knee also, so maybe the patella was useful at that point. Either way, I tried to report that. And essentially, the only real possibility was calling a bee handler, but they don't work for free. There's not a city service apparently. And they're like, well, what property was it on? Was it on city property or was it? I'm like, I don't know, dude. There's an elementary school across the street. There's a beehive here, and the bees are definitely aggressive. Like, well, you're gonna have to. Like, wait a minute. What? Why is this my problem now? I'm doing this part. Like, isn't there a number I can call and say, hey, these bees could be stinging little kids? Nope. So we should fix that. There should be a way to make this easy to do. And I've got this whole habitat encroachment thing that's a possibility. So can we open up the floodgates for people who have been thinking, man, I wish somebody would fix this. Somebody should do something about this. Okay, well, why don't you, and maybe you have some neighbors or friends or colleagues or whatever, if you have something that you think should be fixed, why don't you think about it and come up with a way that you would fix it? And that could be an RFP, a request for proposal, that the city could use to ask for implementation from vendors or service providers or whoever. So here's exactly what we would like to see changed, and the city, county, whoever could take that as is. It's almost like a lobbyist writing a bill. They say, "Oh yeah, this would work. We can take this. Maybe we'll edit it a couple of things here and there, but we can send this out and try to get some work. We can get this addressed. Could be a slide deck, a presentation for the purposes of convincing or making the case for this, whatever the thing is. It could be writing an app. It could be building a website. It could be creating a sculpture. It could be anything. So that's the idea. Will people show up? Now, one of the three people, wasn't me, said, okay, well, say you have like 100 people. And I said, if Clark County is 2.3 million people, that's the greater Vegas area. Even Vegas is 577,000, I think it is. If we get 100 people, and this is a hackathon that's going to last through the year to try to encourage people to participate. I can't stay awake all weekend. I got work on Monday. Well, you don't have to. You can work on it at any time, whenever if you have a team, if you have ideas that you want to pursue, you have all year. And then we'll come up with some finale presentations and prizes. And again, best use of AI. Okay, best use of whatever. You can actually break out the recognition and celebration and incentives into a variety of areas. Accessibility is another one. So should we do an accessibility hackathon? Well, you're going to leave out anyone who's not interested in pursuing that. But what if you make accessibility one of the prize category, like best implementation of accessibility for, whatever. So whatever you're doing, if you make an accessible consideration as part of it, like the beehive thing, how would someone who, if there is a beehive and they have to remove it, before they remove it, this is still in a near a sidewalk, near a school. There could be someone with vision impairment, somebody using a wheelchair or other devices to move around, somebody who can't hear the bees buzzing, which you could. So how do you make a sort of a warning system around beehives that is, technically accessible, right? So that people know that there's a bee situation and to steer clear or be cautious or whatever. Now, this could be integrated in with some mapping services and make like a warning, hey, there's a beehive with aggressive bees here. And that the notification could be accessible, right? So now if you're out walking and you are vision or hearing impaired, or you're out rolling perhaps, or however you're getting around, maybe you are walking, maybe you're a pedestrian, but you are using a cane or a walker, or you can't really move so fast, you wouldn't be able to evade the bees. So in that case, you should be able to know ahead of time, there's a bee hazard avoid this area until it's cleared. And so until the bees are removed, there's bees, and they are traveling. And in my case, it actually followed me for a good 100 yards. So yeah, that should be information that's available in a smart city. You should be able to look or hear something on your phone. And now we have so much speech capability. Hey Dan, before you go walking, be advised there's a beehive at specific location. The notification was posted at a specific time, and as of now, it has not been. The beehive is not removed, right? And then later, you could say the beehive that was there as of sometime later, as of specific time, the beehive hazard has been removed. The bees have been relocated. Whatever they do, right? Whatever the information that would be shared. And then you would know it's safe to move around there again. I think parents would be interested to know when there's a beehive near their kid's school, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this information could be available in a modern era, because we certainly have all the tools possible and capable. We're all capable of consuming these things on our mobile devices and whatnot. So the question is, can we implement these things so that people can benefit from them? And can we take advantage of the fact that so many people have phones? And at the same time, you have to accommodate people who do not have phones. So I think there's a lot of stuff that could happen as a result of this, but we cannot have 100 people. We got to have, just in City of Las Vegas, and City of Las Vegas, by the way, is incompetent when it comes to supporting things like this. So I'm not even planning on reaching out to them anymore. I have. They don't care. So, but anyone in Clark County, anyone in Southern Nevada, and in fact, really anyone, we're not really, as far as I know, I think we haven't really pondered the possibilities. But as far as I'm concerned, anybody who wants to think about smart city stuff that we can play with in the Vegas area, because we do have millions of people visiting here each year, it's probably going to be around 38 million for 2025. That's a lot of people to try out ideas with. So, yeah, it should be interesting. But if we don't get 1,000 people total, so we'll have a hop on, hop off model, right? Like you can join in the hackathon up until the final minute if you really want to. So it's not like, I missed the 30-day sign-up window. We'll probably do a 30-day planning window, like a survey of people who want to participate to tune up a couple of things, like, how much in person should we try to arrange? How much time could you probably spend per week? Just so we have some idea. Maybe we should run into 2027 because we want to give people adequate time, etc. So probably if it could coincide with CES, that might be interesting from a showcasing standpoint to show off. Like, here's what the people of Vegas are innovating around. People visiting from so many different places for the Consumer Electronics Show. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting day yesterday. I think it went well. So we'll have another one next Saturday, as far as I know, and we'll play it by ear. This one's kind of ridiculous. Back in late November 2025, I received paper mail from the California Franchise Tax Board. And to be honest, it was not sent to my home address. So it was sent to another valid address, but I didn't get it directly, suggesting that I owe them money. Uh-oh. They certainly, if they sent me a check, I probably wouldn't be talking about it. So it's interesting, since I've lived in Las Vegas for nearly 13 years now, since I moved here in 2013, in basically August 1st, officially, late July. They claim I have some tax liability from 2009. Oh, okay. So I don't know if I've mentioned this previously, but I had a house fire in 2013 before I moved. It was in April of 2013. And I think it was April 7th or possibly 8th. I think I've checked this before. It was at 2:00 in the morning. So I think it was whatever I think it was Monday. I think it was a Monday. Should I even look? Is this something that we care about? That would take too much. I got to scroll too much through count. Anyway, doesn't matter. It was April 7th or 8th in 2013. House fire, suddenly homeless. That's a total different adventure to go over. But I didn't retain a lot of tax records from 2009 as a result. So I moved to Vegas instead. So I moved to Vegas August of 2013. So guess how many tax records I have from 2009? I should add, they sent, if I can correct my own typo here, they sent the letter dated the day before Thanksgiving in November of 2025. That's pretty sensible, right? So with 2 weeks to pay the liability, they're like, you have to pay within the next 14 days. And then there was another, like in 30 days, there will be some sort of I don't know, we're going to come to your house and break your knuckles. I don't know. It's not really clear. So I sent a certified letter to the Franchise Tax Board on December 22nd, 2025. And I was tempted to wait till the 24th, in kind, but I did not. So on the December 22nd, I sent a certified letter for $10. It was one page, and it said, I had a house fire. I don't have these records. If you can send to me, I'm not reading it, but it's basically, if you can send to me the records and information on which you're basing this alleged liability, then I will, I can pursue this. I don't have the information thanks to this fire. So 16 years is a long time. So Sacramento, we have a problem. What's up with you guys? Hey, this tax liability from 16 years ago, we're going to wait till the holiday season. We're going to send this to you so you get it over the Thanksgiving weekend if we're lucky, maybe soon after. And you're going to owe us money in 2 weeks from 16 years ago. Okay. So I did. So I looked. I'm like, where do I send this? What do I do? Can I call? I tried calling. You can call. There was no email address listed for contacting the FTB, Franchise Tax Board. So you can call, you can fax, although guess what? No fax number. They tell you can fax, but there's zero faxing phone number information. And then no email address. So you either have to write a letter, and then of course they're very clear, we will never call you. That's fine. That's actually good. Cut down on the FTB spam or scam incoming. So typo. So I have the letter unopened. Oh, I didn't say this part. I sent the certified letter. I received a response in the form of the letter I sent unopened, and I received it on January 22nd. So 30 days later, I received my unopened request for records. So I did locate an email address for FTB for records request. I think it's probably, do I have it written down here? Let me tell you, I do actually. It is, wait, I can go right here. There it is. FTB Disclosure Office. And then you just tell them, here's what I need. Send it to here. If you're looking for a specific tax return, you have to send it to a different address. I tried calling, like I said. It was a 90-minute wait. And then I still didn't know if I was going to be able to get it. So I figured, okay, I'm going to send it to the sort of the main PO box. Apparently they didn't like that. So I got it back 22nd. So now I have to send, I'm going to try the email route, and then I'm going to, so I just need records, not returns. Maybe, I don't even know. So maybe I can just ask them in the email, not do the 90-minute phone call. Either way, I can also send the unopened letter. So now it is like proof of sending. It has dates. It has the letter inside. It's not opened. It's still sealed. We're good. So I'll send that with another, probably the email that I send them, and then I'll see what happens. But, and that's if they respond at all. But luckily I feel fully trained after coming up on 13 years in Vegas, fully trained, completely aware and able to deal with ghosting and useless response when there is one. Because that is all Vegas is. So pathetic is the word that comes to mind for both the Franchise Tax Board, for their kind of silence on this, but also for making this ridiculous claim in this ridiculous way about an alleged liability from 16 years ago. So first of all, I don't believe it. Second of all, I don't have any data to back that up. So send me what you got. You know what? I haven't mentioned Noisy Raymond in a while. He's my neighbor above who has no sense of time nor decorum when it comes to whatever's going on up there. And I believe that he is incapable of coming close to proper pitch. If that is him I hear singing now and then. It is awful. It is truly awful. Luckily not very loud, but I can hear it occasionally. It's awful. It's almost like, hey, I'm going to try to annoy everyone around me with very bad singing. And then other people say, that is very bad. And he's like, no, I can get it. I can make it worse. And then he does. I am going to say that Raymond is the most obnoxious upstairs neighbor I have ever experienced in all of my living in places with upstairs neighbors. So that's been a lot of years. And the place where I live does not seem too concerned about this. I've tried a few different ways. Essentially, what I have to do is gather evidence myself. I have to do a little investigation. I have to call their security people, which if they're here, great. If not, somebody has to drive over, and it has to be, late at night, and they stop at 5 a.m. So that has actually been a factor. But after 5 a.m., I can't call the security people for this anymore. I'd have to wait. Maybe I could do some recordings, which then the argument would be, well, that could be of anything. There's no proof. So if I call the security people, they have production by street. They have to come in and listen and make sure that, yes, I can hear the problem also. So there's two problems with that. At midnight, 2 a.m, I'm thinking, I'm not really thinking about inviting security personnel to come on over and take a visit, chill for a while and listen to my neighbor. That's just stupid. Now, I went through that. I actually stood outside my door. I had the door ajar. And when the security guy showed up, I opened the door. I said, "Can you hear it?" And he's like, "Yep." I said, "Okay, good. You don't have to come in and hang out and sit down and enjoy yourself. Go tell the dude." And I'm like, just tell them, hey, after 10 p.m., turn the volume down. That's the kind of the rule. What they don't do is offer like a decibel range. If you're playing music with instruments, turn the amps off or put on some headphones or whatever, right? So they basically just go, don't be loud, and loud is not defined. What they do define here is if you are living in an apartment near the swimming pool, like around the pool, the inner perimeter of the property where the pool is, and the sky. So there's no apartments over the pool. So if you live in an apartment around the pool, if people are playing music at the pool, you're not supposed to be able to hear it 6 feet away. That's a little weird, I guess. That's kind of excessive, but that's a little bit more of an explicit constraint than don't make noise after 10 p.m. So I've actually said, well, wait a minute. The ceilings are, however tall here. I'm like, isn't this an example of that? Like, shouldn't I not be able to hear this music 6 feet away? Which again, is a little strange. That's not totally realistic, but it is the basis for, hey, turn that down. But they just don't care. And even though I went through this once and the security guard heard and recognized, okay, good, I would have to go through that all again. So then the other problem is, this is not like, hey, we're going to play music for 6 hours. This is construction. It's dropping heavy objects. I don't know what he's building up there, but it's like, it's heavy droppable objects. And this includes tools. Before I started recording, I heard something that sounded like maybe a monkey wrench, like an adjustable wrench, or maybe like some slip joint pliers without rubber handles. So that sort of clanky metal sounding, like there's a movable thing on a tool and it dropped onto the floor, which is my ceiling. And it's with complete disregard. So it sounds like there's a bowling ball rolling along. Is he building a bowling alley? Is he building a concrete basketball court with concrete basketballs? Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I'm I'm apathetic at this point, but I put on my Harvey Mudd earbuds, which was just ignore loud noises unless it gets to be a real problem, and then just go somewhere else. So if it's 2 a.m. and he's going nuts, then I can go to the gym, I guess. That is literally easier. Because, yeah, if you call the security guy and then he decides to stop building and go to bed, then the security guy gets here and I'm like, can't hear it anymore. Okay, well, give us a call if there's anything else. Okay, kind of along these lines, the apathy of the property management people here, speaking of, because at some point I was like, can you just call and say, turn down the music? Because I don't want to get into a confrontation. Well, we called, but he didn't answer. That's it. That's all they do. Great. So there are 2 exits from this one big, beautiful building with double doors. You can exit from several places to get into the parking garage, and then you can exit through the parking garage exit for cars, and then there's a couple of doors for humans. But in the event of an emergency, you don't want to be trying to find those doors. You want to leave through the nearest exit. The nearest exit for me does not have this problem, but there are 2 exits. I'm trying to think. There may be... No, I think it's just 2. where they're double doors and and they lock, and they have added I think they've added like an alarm so they can detect when people prop doors open. So I think that was a recent change. But either way, so these double doors, there's, and the architecture is a bit odd. So but it is one big giant building spread out, or anyway, doesn't matter. Uh, they don't open from the inside. So like during a fire, for example. So one pair of doors requires that you open one of the doors. Don't try to open the other one. And all it says is use this door, not the other one. So what you have to do is push on the door and then release, like don't push on it because it's not going to open. Then you can look up and you can see that the locking mechanism, and I think what the red light is the alarm for it. So the lock and alarm red light will turn out for that door. Then you can open the door because it will disengage the lock. Okay. So in the event of a fire and you got, a crowd of people trying to get out through that door, hey, everybody, hey, chill. I got to push the door and then let go of it, then open it. And we can only go out through the right side, not the left side. So to me, that seems like a problem. So I made a video of this, and then there's another double door set that has the push button to open. So for like accessibility concerns, especially in an emergency. And so the first doors I mentioned open onto a little, we would have called it a stoop. So it's a concrete landing with steps that go down to the main sidewalk. I think it's 4 steps. And there's also a ramp, a windy switchback ramp. So if you do need to use a ramp to get down to the sidewalk level, you can do that. In the event of an emergency, though, I don't know how that would go. Now, the other double doors with the button, those open onto the sidewalk level. So you could go directly, if you're in a wheelchair, if you have a cane or a walker or something, you should be able to walk towards those doors, hit that button, the door's open for you, and you can just go right out onto the sidewalk. So in an emergency, evacuation, etc., you should be able to do that. That's right. Those doors you just can't open. I tried the same deal with pushing on one and whatnot, but the button doesn't work at all. So the doors try to open and they kind of jiggle a little bit and they're fighting against the lock, and then you can't open them. And then you have emergency vehicles. Who knows where that guy's going? To me, this is a problem. I went to them and I said, hey, this is a problem. I made some videos here. And they're like, you just have to push harder. So when I go walking in the evenings or whenever, I change it up. But when I go walking, I walk past a fire station because, for better or worse, I mean, probably better. Hopefully we don't need to exercise this, but I live within, I think it's within 2 miles of a fire station, and there's a hospital even closer. So like, that's hopefully not convenient. I really don't want to have to go to either of those places or be serviced by one or both. But anyway, I was thinking about going by the fire station and saying, hey, does this look right? Does this look like it would pass fire inspection muster? And just see what happens. But I don't want to rock the boat because you never know. You never know what people are going to do. So that's it. That's all I got. I don't have any other topics for today. I always end these episodes of Coffee Solo with anything else, and I can't think of anything. So hopefully this was interesting. I know it was a smattering of stuff, a little meandering, but that is exactly what I'm going for. The notion that I can talk about things as they come to mind. There is supposedly going to be a Hugo Floss video stream program that comes from this. This will probably continue to exist, but once I get that going, I'd like to actually interact with people on some things and do live streams and whatnot. And I don't want to be like a YouTuber or a game streamer or things, or a movie reactor. I still like movie reactions, but no, this is more like just passing the time, part of an overall engagement and outreach strategy for some things I'm working on, so that I can actually describe some of the projects that we're pursuing with the Innovate for Vegas Foundation or this hackathon, for example. I should be able to talk to people, not post on LinkedIn and get no engagement, or social media and get nothing. So we'll see what happens, but that's my plan. So being able to grab topics and run with them, I guess, is probably the best way to describe what this is practicing for. That's all I got. We have come to an end. Thanks for listening as always. And do check out my other various programs and whatnot. And they're all free. There's no real advertising I don't aside if I mention something, that's not there's no paid advertising. And then the only affiliate links and the buy me a coffee option is basically at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. So you can check that out. My favorite coffee affiliate links and some other things that I actually use are on there if you so desire. That puts a few pennies in the coffee fund. All the money that comes in through the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo presence goes towards coffee. And to be honest, I haven't gotten anything from that in a while. So, which is fine. So I'm not doing this for the money. It's part of an overall strategy to take over the world one free podcast at a time. So that's it. Take care now. We'll talk to you through the week on my various audio programs. Ciao.